Big report by Connor Riley over at the AJC saying that the Georgia Bulldogs are expected to have Trevor Etienne return in the 2025 season to the Dogs. So we talked about this a lot over here on this channel. And this was my suspicion as well. Of course, they've got some reporting to back that up. And look, Georgia's added some real pieces here in these last, say, 24 hours, or at least pieces that, explosive pieces. ETN, Dylan Bell says that he's coming back. If you're over on Dawg Post, you can check all this stuff out. Here's the article about Dylan. All right, so make sure you're going to Dawg Post and signing up for our newsletter, and you won't miss any of this stuff. You've got the addition of Zachariah Branch, of course, Noah Thomas today from Texas A&M. So a lot of movement towards Georgia today on the offensive side of the ball alone. And, that Georgia needs help on the offensive side of the ball for sure. Now, the caveat, if you want to call it negative, you can. 4 of the 5 offensive linemen, let me go through it. So, Truss, Tate Ratledge, Dylan Fairchild, and then someone else I'm forgetting, have all said that they're leaving too. So Georgia will have to go back into a rebuilt, refreshed, whatever you want to call it, offensive line. It's Jared Wilson. It's going off the top of my head. So, you saw Drew Bobo play there at center. I don't know if that's going to be the future at center for the Dogs, but the offense is starting to come more into place, more settled in here. But look, I do want to focus on ETN for a little bit because I'm a huge fan. I'm a big fan of Dylan Bell too, by the way. Now, I know that Dylan has had it's just not been a great season for him. He had far too many drops, very uncharacteristic. That was not the way he was. So I think Dylan gets the opportunity to reset. I think for ETN, I'm assuming Frazier comes back. I don't know why he wouldn't. As it relates to ETN, with this report, I think it's the right move for him. I think, NIL gives him the opportunity, as I talked about yesterday, NIL gives Trevor Etienne the opportunity to be at Georgia and strike up deals with, like, Red Zone, okay? You've got a great company downtown in Athens. They've done NIL deals before with players. And, there's no shortage of opportunities in Athens. You've got other companies, car companies in Athens, a zillion places. But, it gives you the ability to reset, maybe get rid of this notion that you're too banged up in 2024. For Georgia, it means they have the ability to return a guy who has shown against probably the best defense in the country in Texas. Although there are a lot of good defenses out there, I have to say. Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame. All of those, there are some really good defenses out there. But it gives Trevor the ability to come back and show, hey, what I did to Texas, I can do that a lot. What I did to Kentucky, it was a pretty good defense too, to be honest. I can do that a lot. Georgia will need him in 2025. This is a challenging schedule for the Dogs. I'm going to throw the schedule up on Dawg Post as I talk here. When you take a look at this, you got back-to-back. Now, there's a week off, but you got a back-to-back with Tennessee and Alabama, in the first 4 games of the season. Is this thing as nuts as this past year? No, it is not. I mean, you're not starting with Clemson. A game that, I didn't think Georgia would lose, but, you don't know. They'll probably be a very narrow favorite at Tennessee, although they could be a dog there. We'll just see. They'll be favored against Alabama and Kentucky. This is preseason ranking. I would say the Tennessee game for Georgia, heading into the season, I think the only 2 games where Georgia could possibly be a dog are Tennessee and Texas. And there's been so much it goes without saying that this is the time of the season where the portal more than anything is what people kind of talk about because there's been so much movement. We've talked about this a lot at Dawg Post. Again, there have been 10 guys that have left. Let me see real quick. We got it on the site. There have been 50,000 people have read this article, so make sure you're one of those 50,000. So Georgia's had 11, as of this second, Georgia had 11 guys leave and 10 guys leave, 6 come in. And of the 10, I would say the guy that in order, I wowould say Damon Wilson for sure. He's a good player. And then Anthony Evans. Those two guys were guys that played this past season. Humphrey as well, but that bridge had been burned. So Humphrey as well. But, you're talking about two guys in Wilson and Evans, I think could have either started or really played a lot at Georgia. And you're replacing them with this 6 guys. I would imagine that the Branch brothers will have something to say about next year. But it's going to be Zachariah and Noah Thomas. Those two guys coupled with, with Dylan Bell, you have the ability to have him in theory. You're talking about in theory, Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas, Dylan Bell, Kobe Young, Nitro Tuggle, and then I'm leaving somebody out. The newcomers as well. I think there are a lot of people curious / excited to see what Georgia can do on the offensive side of the ball with some of these playmakers, okay? And, they just have got to be more consistent. I think Taylor, the addition of a 5-star prospect, now it's prospect, right? I mean, we don't know what these guys will do. We know what Trevor Etienne has done at Florida, and then while he's at Georgia. Georgia was a good team when he was healthy. I think they lost in games that he legitimately played. They lost two of those games. That was it. The game against Alabama, which he played not a lot because of the situation, and then the Notre Dame game. So he didn't really play against Ole Miss. He did not play against the Gators. He played, and he did from the Florida game on until the SEC championship game. Etienne did not get a full game in. There were multiple games he did not play. So then you have the addition of now. I would not call Nate Frazier explosive like a DeAndre Swift or Dwight Phillips, something like that. I would not call him explosive, but he's a really good running back. And so I think today is the pivot towards 25. We know the guys that are leaving now. I mean, we knew Carson was going to go. It makes sense that, Jalen Walker, Mikael Williams, you have Malachi Starks, all those guys leaving. The guys that are leaving, they all make sense. Fairchild makes sense. Wilson, Jared Wilson, I think these guys are not making bad mistakes leaving. They're getting a lot of good information at Georgia, and they are acting upon that information. And they're too good at developing conclusions at Georgia. I mean, just take a look at Devontae Wyatt coming back. The guy turned out to be a first-round draft pick. So I think Jake Fromm made a mistake, but you don't bat 1,000. And it was that was always in the plan. I mean, I've talked about this maybe some, I'm not sure, but Jake Fromm was leaving. That was the way I understood it from people that would know, that were very, I would say, very close to that situation. And he was leaving after that year. It was just what it was. He wanted to play in the NFL. I don't know if he's still in the league now or not. He's not starting, obviously, or playing. But the return, I think this, my opinion is, as a non-football person, like a real football person, I think it's the right move for Etienne, because you can come back and maybe work your way into a first 2-round pick, something like that. First round for running backs, that's hard. That's hard to do. Hard to justify spending a pick at that spot. But first 65 picks, I don't think that. I mean, you're starting to take a look at him. He has some work to do. But man, as a college player, I love Trevor Etienne. I love Dylan Bell too, and I probably won't do a video about Dylan. I'll just say this: not a season in 25 that was ideal. No, 24 that was ideal. But I think with Dylan Bell, he gets to reset. He gets to sort of refocus his mind moving forward. Dylan Bell is the playmaking ability is there. He's shown that plenty of times. So, guys can have sort of sets the minute seasons of 2020 and rebound with 2021 and 2022. But they got to do it, but it's there. But the return of Etienne, now you're looking at an offensive line. Now, let me just say this about the offensive line that they signed in 24, because those guys have been those guys now have been there for some time. but you're going to return at least 3 guys who have started. Now, they're not 3 starters, but 3 guys who have started for Georgia. Freeling, Green, and Bobo. Now, you still have Michael Morris, and you're going to see, do these guys that they signed 2 years ago, 2 classes ago, are they ready to roll? And I mean, I think in terms of running the ball, I think they're going to be okay there. The question is, are they going to be able to pass protect? And like a guy like Daniel Calhoun, I would love to see him. I would love to see what it will look like in run blocking. What I am ignorant about and don't know enough about is, where are these guys in their development in terms of pass protection and stuff like that? Because Georgia was pretty good at pass protection this past year. The run was not good. It just wasn't. So I just looking at these younger players, man. There's some really good. I mean, Justin Williams is going to be a very good player at Georgia. Freaky player. I think. I mean, Nate Frazier showed what he can do. I think Ryan Puglisi could be a very good player for Georgia. And we're going to see with Nitro Tuggle. There's a lot of younger guys here who did not play this season as much as maybe you would think or whatever, and they're going to get their chance in 25. But I think with Frazier, you are returning some really good running backs. It very well could be that in the spring, someone says, "Hey, it's just too crowded here. I'm going to go somewhere else," and I would understand that. But Etienne, Frazier, I would imagine Phillips. At a minimum, those guys being back. I mean, I don't have any insight into those guys particularly, but I would imagine those guys would come back. As it relates to the Robinsons, I don't know. And we'll just have to see how this all shakes out. But this is a really good news for Georgia. But again, now too, I will say the offensive line's got to do their part. If they don't do their part, it's gonna be a problem anyway. So the big news: Trevor Etienne is back at Georgia for the 2025 season. Thanks for watching.